Well, hello everyone. It is game day. Trev is back with another episode of Bandit Land Boulevard. Tony cannot be with me today to do this preview as we take on the Toronto Rock in Hamilton. He's feeling under the weather, so I'll just take over, do a little pregame for you guys. Big game this week against the Toronto Rock for the Buffalo Bandits. The boys in the orange and black are 3-3 going into this game, traveling up to Hamilton, home of Finger 11, which is the Toronto Rock, are 5-0 at this point in the season now. For the first time in their franchise history, they started off 5-0 through their first 5 games of the season. They have a lot to play for. Buffalo as well, as they're 3-3. They don't want to go under 500, I believe, for the third separate time this year. We've only been 6 games in. So they want to continue to make their push and try to go back to back. Take it 1 week at a time as they're traveling to Hamilton to play the Toronto Rock tonight at 7 o'clock at the First Ontario Center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So the Buffalo Bandits, there are players to watch. There are keys to the game that I can get into really, really quick. But the number one thing I want to mention is the Toronto Rock injury report. This is huge. This is big for the Buffalo Bandits. I'm looking at it right now. This is a laundry list of injuries for Toronto. Tom Schreiber, Captain America for the Toronto Rock, is questionable. Chris Corbeil is out. TD Ierlan is out. Josh Jubinville is out. Chase Shiavon is out. Jordan McKenna is out. Latrell Harris is out. And yeah, yikes. If you're a Toronto Rock fan going into this one, that's tough. The first time they're facing against each other in the same building since game two of the Eastern Conference Finals at the time, the only guy that's probably going to play in that laundry list of players is Captain America, Tom Schreiber. And don't get me wrong, he's one of the best players on that team. He might be the best. And there are other players to look out for. But when you're missing guys like Jubinville, Harris, and Corbeil, that's something that the Buffalo Bandits absolutely need to jump on. As far as I'm concerned, I think the injury report is rather empty for the Bandits unless something comes up maybe in warmups or something, maybe a phantom injury happens, I don't know, 2 hours before the game, something like that pops up. But this is something that the Bandits need to absolutely jump on before I get into anything. Toronto is banged up. They're 5-0. They have a crap ton to play for. They want to keep that streak going. But Buffalo, statistically, especially in the past when they're playing in that building in Hamilton, the Bandits typically know how to play there. And not just know how to play there, they know how to dominate there. Now, granted, last year Toronto didn't start off 5-0. Neither did the Bandits. And there was a couple meetings there in the season where games got close, and we've lost some pretty close games there. We got blown out 18-7 in that building last year. As we rapidly approached the end of the season. But the Buffalo Bandits in the playoffs, they took care of business the last time they went to that building. And in a high pressure situation, call it what you want, 3-3. They had the chance to fall out of a playoff spot. If they lose tonight and other teams win, they have a lot to play for as well. So usually Bandits in high leverage situations against the Toronto Rock, they usually come out on top, which I really, really love about this team. But you can't overlook any team. I feel like a lot of the fan base overlooked the New York Riptide last week, and that was not a good thing to do. They came in almost, they put up 15 on us. One of them was an empty netter, but I mean, they scored 8 and a quarter against us. So you can't overlook any of these teams. Toronto seems to jump out of the gate real quick to start off this year. It reminds me of last year's Nighthawks. Do you remember when the Nighthawks started off 7-0 last year? They beat us in the War Memorial, and then a specific game in February, they came to the KeyBank Center, and where it seemed like all of the Bandit starters were out. And it took a banged up Bandits team filled with secondary scores to beat them by 3, win that game 13-10 to derail that season. If we win tonight against the Toronto Rock, we have our guys healthy for this one. They really don't. If the Buffalo Bandits win this game against the Toronto Rock tonight, I'm looking at it like last year's Nighthawks. The Rock have the potential to fumble the bag away. Buffalo, being in that 6th seed if the season ended right now at 3-3, they really don't have anything to lose right now. While Toronto has everything to lose. All it takes is a punch in the face to derail your season. The Bandits did that with Rochester last year. I feel like the Bandits did that with Toronto last year in the playoffs, obviously. Both of those games weren't even remotely close. I think we beat them by 9 in both games. And we really just ended it all. Nick Rose. If you want to jump into key players to watch already, Nick Rose is my number one player to watch right now for the Toronto Rock. You're either going to get the Nick Rose, who's a lights-out goalie, who almost looks like Dobson in the net with the Georgia Swarm, or you're going to get the beatable Nick Rose, who we see a lot. And the Bandits, no matter how many times Nick Rose sees us, he's got the same weaknesses. And Tony and I talk about that a lot on this show. Nick Rose's different weaknesses: shoot low. Shoot low. Every chance you got, take a bounce shot, shoot towards his feet, go for the 5-hole, right above the pad, shoot low. I'm telling you, I mean, for any goalie, a bounce shot is the toughest shot to save. Ask any box goalie. But for Nick Rose, he notoriously gives up those 5-hole goals over the pad, not so much over the shoulder around the face area like Matt Vince kind of does. But if you just attack the net down low, he's going to give up a bunch of goals and he's going to get flustered. Another key player to watch, obviously Tom Schreiber, if he plays. He's questionable, so I think he's going to play. I think a lot of people think he's going to play too. He's got a wicked sidearm, wicked over-the-shoulder shot, overhand shot. He can shoot from different parts of the rink. He shoots from the side, shoots from the restraining line. Always seems like whenever he picks a corner, he nails it. So, again, I compare him to a guy like Jeff Teat. I compare him to a guy like Zed Williams. You're not going to hold him to 0 if he plays. You're not going to hold him to 0 goals. I know that for a fact. But if you can limit him, like the Bandits did not limit Jeff Teat last week, if they can limit the top weapon that Toronto has offensively in Tom Schreiber to maybe 1-2 goals at max, and with all these guys out, Corbeil, Jubenville, McKenna, Harris, all these players out, you're going to win. It wouldn't make any logical sense if the Toronto Rock if you held the Toronto Rock, Tom Schreiber to 2 goals, all these players out, and you lost this game. It really just doesn't make any sense in my mind. I don't think that's what bad teams usually do. Bad teams find ways to lose games like that. By no stretch of the imagination are the Buffalo Bandits a bad team. They're the reigning champs for a reason. Sure, they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but there's a different mantra going into this year. You have a title to defend, unlike the previous years since 2008. So we all knew that this year was going to be different going into this going into this season to begin with. Last one, someone that gets overlooked sometimes and had a career game against us in the regular season last year, is our good buddy, our former Buffalo Bandit, Corey Small. Corey Small is kind of like Tom Schreiber, where he shoots all the way around the rink, different angles, likes to go top shelf. And if you know our number one goaltender's weakness, it's top shelf. It's over the shoulder. It's around the helmet area. We call him over the shoulder Vince sometimes when he gives up a bunch of those goals. And Corey Small is not a guy who shoots low. You remember watching his highlights with the Bandits. Remember the 2019 run. That dude's always trying to get the pretty goal, always trying to get the top shelf where Mama hides the cookies type of goal. So when you get a guy like Corey Small, he's nothing to mess around with. He's a big body in front of the net as well. Chances are, on the power play and on the 5-on-5, Schreiber and Small will be line mates. They'll be out there at the same time. So the defense, you have to step up. You have to nail those 2 guys. You have to limit those 2 guys. Do I expect the Bandits to give up more than 10 goals? It's a possibility. Excuse me. It's a possibility. You know how good this team is. They're 5-0 for a reason. These guys, the Toronto Rock, they beat the New York Riptide at home. We, for the first half of that game, didn't even look competitive against the Riptide. Toronto might be a real threat. Like the Rochester Nighthawks, I call them the Junior Bandits, and I trash talk them all the time. This Toronto Rock team might be different. It takes a team to stand in their way and knows how to beat them, and statistically knows how to beat them in their house to kind of derail that train. What other team could that be besides the boys in the orange and black and the Buffalo Bandits? done giving the Toronto Rock any love right now. Let's talk about the key players to watch for the Buffalo Bandits. Overdue to have an explosive night. Someone who wasn't on the score sheet at all last week, and that's the Deuce. Number 2, Chris Cloutier. Give him time to wind up and shoot. He's got a very lethal sidearm shot, almost sort of like an underhand sidearm, too, that I've been seeing. You shoot that ball and you shoot it low, go for the 5-hole, go for the legs on Nick Rose. He ain't stopping it. Chris Cloutier, shoot the damn ball. If you shoot it, you're going to score. I know it. You guys know how to beat the Toronto Rock. Chris Cloutier had an electric night in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the very same team in the Toronto Rock. So give the Deuce time to shoot the ball. Give him clear lanes. The forecheck's got to be there. When you have a forecheck and it's effective in the game, you have guys that are laying out hits in the offensive zone and you create separation for Chris Cloutier, he's going to score from the slot every time. Maybe from in front of the net. We saw some wacky Chris Cloutier goals against the Rochester Nighthawks where it was very uncharacteristic, where he was kind of tiptoeing and dancing around the crease and dipping and dunking into the net. I don't care how you do it, bro. You're overdue to have a 4-goal, 5-goal night. So Chris Cloutier is definitely a player to watch for me. Another one. Just keep on keeping on. 95, Chase Fraser. He's playing for another contract. He's in a contract year. He scored 4 against the Riptide, including the game tire when they were rallying at 13 apiece. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They need to find an answer for 95, Lightning McQueen, Chase Fraser. They need to find an answer for him, because if they don't, he knows he's in a contract year. He saw Dane Smith get paid and get extended for 5 years. He saw Josh Byrne get extended for 5 years. He wants to join that 5-year club as well. So he's got something to play for, and he's been playing absolutely electric this season to start off the year. So keep it going with Chase Fraser. And if I want to go defensively, Matt Spanger is due to have a bounce back night. He got burnt by Jeff Teat pretty badly last Saturday. They had him one-on-one in coverage back there a bunch of times, and Jeff Teat's just an outstanding player. Resembles a lot of his dad. And Matt Spanger is going to come into this game pissed off. He's going to come into this game more motivated than ever, and expect a better defensive game from him, and also expect a better goaltending matchup from Matt Vince. It seems like the Bandits, they always hang with the top teams, no matter how banged up they are, no matter what the injury report looks like, no matter how many goals we give up in the first or second quarter, we always hang with the top teams. And the only downside of that is the Bandits tend to play down to competition. The good news is Toronto is the best team in the East, or what would be the East. They're the number 1 seed in the playoffs right now. The only undefeated team as far as I'm concerned. So the good news is the Bandits always play up to competition. There's no such thing as playing down tonight against an undefeated team. It just doesn't make any sense. So when his number gets called upon in a big high leverage situation, Matt Vince usually locks it down. So expect a big game from Matt Vince in between the pipes. If there's anyone else that's angry in that locker room for how last week turned out, it's got to be him. He's the one that got pulled in the second quarter. He's the one that got thrown back into the flames in the third quarter and came back and limited the damage in the second quarter against the Riptide very, very well. But I think Matt Vince is going to come out and he's going to be absolutely amazing. So those are my players to watch there. Keys to the game: face-offs, face-offs, face-offs. Beat this horse to death. I mean, this is the same thing. Lightning has struck the same spot 8 different times on this show talking about the face-offs. I get it. I get it. Max Adler's not there. I understand. But more face-offs equals more possessions, more goal-scoring opportunities, more chances. I mean, just more scoring chances in general. Can we aim for 40% tonight? 40%, 4-0. I don't care. Can we just aim for 40% tonight? That's all I want. Because Toronto, they got some guys that can take faceoffs. They're really good with the ball when they have the ball in possession. Ask the 5 teams that they smoked earlier this year. When you give them more opportunities to score, more faceoff wins for Toronto is not a recipe for success for the Buffalo Bandits. It goes into my next key to the game: loose balls. Jump on them. Jump on them, please. Check players out of the way if you have to scoop up a loose ball. Be physical in the offensive zone. That means forecheck, lay out body checks in the neutral zone. Lock it down defensively. When the ball's on the ground, you better jump on it. You better scoop it with 2 hands. None of this one-hand scoop shit. We need to see two hands on the stick scooping up the ball, quick outlet pass, set something up. Loose balls. We got dominated against Georgia, and we got dominated against the New York Riptide when the balls were on the ground. So jump on the loose balls, because if you don't scoop them up and you don't scoop them up in time, a team like Toronto is going to make you pay. I'm telling you, they're going to make you pay. Another one, smart shots. Last week, I saw a lot of shots from the restraining line that wouldn't even catch a corner in a soccer goal. If the shot's not there, don't take it. If you have to take a desperation shot with 3 to maybe 1 second to go on the shot clock, don't care where you're shooting it from, shoot it low. Nick Rose, beat this horse to death too, is so prone to give up those low goals. The Bandits have seen him so many times, and he just refuses to make any adjustment to his game. And Johnny T knows it. He's faced against Nick Rose in the past. These boys know it. They've faced against Nick Rose countless times. So I'm not worried about the game plan going in. It's just about the little things in the game that start to add up. Finally, do not let the floodgates open in a quarter. We can't have 8 goals in the second quarter again to 2 Bandit goals or whatever it was. I think it was 8-3 in the second quarter. We can't have that. Limit the damage, stop the bleeding. They're going to score, you're going to score. It's the game of indoor lacrosse. We have a chance to see a high-powered shootout in this game. You're not holding a team to under 3 goals. You're not holding a team to 0 goals. Teams are going to score. It's about how you respond and how you stop the bleeding and how you limit the damage. That's a big one. And if you limit the damage, you got a lot of those guys out. They're calling up a lot of practice squad or a lot of taxi squad guys for tonight's game, I imagine. They don't have any film on them either, which could be a bad thing for the Bandits, for these upcoming practice squad guys or these taxi squad guys that are coming up. That could be a bad thing for the Bandits because they don't have any film on them, but I think this team is experienced enough, and the leaders on this team are great to stop the bleeding with these guys. I got to get into my score prediction because I am going to Hamilton tonight. I am going to this game. We're sitting in, I don't even remember, section 1 something. We're 5 rows back behind one of the nets. I think we're in 114 or something like that, row 5. I'll be wearing my Scream mask. My brother will be there. I don't even know what he's going to be wearing. But if you're there and you see me, say hey. It's going to be fun. First Bandits game I've ever been to across international lines, so it's going to be pretty fun. Score prediction tonight, it's going to be close the whole way, I think. But I got to pick Buffalo to win this game. You get a couple outlier wins against Toronto, or Toronto gets a couple outlier wins against us. I think tonight we have more to play for than Toronto does, and our injury report looks a lot better. I'm going to say Buffalo wins tonight 15-11 over the Toronto Rock. I think that they get off to a fast start, and it's kind of back and forth the rest of the way, and then they start to pull away in the fourth quarter. Player of the game, expect a big night out of Chris Kluche, the first guy I said. I've been talking about Dane Smith's overdue. He's an assist machine this year. We're not really seeing a lot of goals from number 92. He's turned into the assist machine. So when he gets back on the score sheet, I'll start talking more about Dane Smith. But you got to praise the guys that are doing everything perfectly, like Josh Byrne, Chris Kluche, Chase Fraser, and for the most part, Matt Vince, our goaltender. You got to give them credit. But it's just taking a little longer for Dane to get his feet wet to start the year. What better team to really explode against than your arch rival in the Toronto Rock? And expect this game to be physical too. I would expect if it gets chippy in the third and fourth quarter, you're probably going to see the gloves being shed a couple times. You're going to see a couple fights probably. Look out for a Priolo or a Nick Weiss type of brawl or something like that. But it seems like every time these guys play, the gloves come off at some point, usually in the second half. So expect that if you're going to this game. If you're not going to the game, you can always listen to the game on the radio on the Bet 1520 WWKB Buffalo, or you can watch the game on CW23, or you can also watch the game on ESPN Plus. They have those games there too. So hopefully you guys are going to the game. I know there are a couple local bars in Buffalo that are showing this game as well, and Bandits Mafia, Bandit Land will show up to that bar as well. So if you guys are going to that, have fun. If you see me on TV, take pictures. because I love seeing myself on Bandits Mafia. I love the 15-second of fame app and stuff like that. Seeing myself on there, it's pretty cool. I'll be wearing the Scream mask and the Stainhouse jersey, so you couldn't miss the big orange blob with the orange Scream ghost face mask on in row 5 right behind the net. We'll be chanting Rosie, 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 you suck. You'll hear us out there. You'll hear the Let's Go Bandit chants. I mean, they roped off the entire 200 level section. You don't think the Bandit fans are going to be super, super loud in the 100s? Get out of town. But this has been Banditland Boulevard. From myself, Trevor Howard, we'd like to thank our lone sponsor, Mitchell's Tavern. If you want the best beef on Weck in town, visit Mitchell's Tavern today. And we have to thank our YouTube watchers. Make sure that if this is your first time and you're a Buffalo Bandits fan or a lacrosse fan, maybe even a Toronto Rock fan, you like our content, please hit that subscribe button and please hit that like and hit the notification bell every time we drop a podcast. Really, really, really appreciate it. We've been doing this show since the 2022 season, so we really appreciate our loyal viewers. And for those that are listening on Spotify and Anchor.fm, we appreciate you as well. Whatever device you're listening to us on, we definitely appreciate it. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review if you like it. And if you ever want to come on the show, just send me or Tony a message. We're always on our Facebook, and if you send us a message, we'd love to have you on. You could be a Bandits fan, you could be an NLL fan. I don't care. You could be a Nighthawks fan, Rock fan. You could be an old Boston Blazers fan. For all I care, I really don't care. If you want to join the show, join the show. We want to have more guests on the show, and we had a lot of guests last year, and we want to continue that into this year. So, on behalf of myself, Trevor Howard, this has been another episode of Banditland Boulevard. Thanks for listening, and let's go Bandits.